always a sore point with the gods and goddesses. We have to worship them. We have to pay homage. Otherwise, that evokes their revenge. But in the fine print, they don't annihilate us totally, because then they have nobody to worship then. So in a pinch, you can always say, because I've got 3 planets in Gemini, so I think of these little small planets. You know, it's like, but then who's going to worship you if you like get rid of me? So then they kind of soften and say, and they punish you, as the psyche does when we don't pay attention. So Venus finds out. Now the seagull is called, and he says, oh, and Venus is absolutely, she has her thumb in her knot. I mean, she's out of her mind. Okay. The Venus family is ruined, and that wretched little son of mine who causes so much trouble, Eros, and all the times, he had me, his own mother, fall in love with all these people and situations. She's furious. And then, cliffhanger. She says, did she fall in love with pleasure, or did she fall in love with one of my graces? He goes, nah, she fell in love with a mortal. Well, that does it for Venus. A mortal? He disobeyed me? The male finally dared to separate and disobey love itself. Venus, my beautiful mother? I want another beautiful mortal? She's out of the line. So at this point, Psyche gets a little bit of courage. She goes to Venus's temple, and the first servant to meet Venus, and these are such wonderful images, is Old Habit. And Old Habit gets a hold of her and smacks her and slaps her and kicks her and everything, then drags her to Venus. Okay, now Venus at this point is out of her mind, hysterical, like that crazy laughter, that hush and Charlotte laughter that women get, like, oh my God. And she totally goes after Psyche. And then she thinks, okay, I know how to get Psyche. And she takes her handmaidens, Grief and Anxiety, to go slap her around, right? And when you look at all these things are what happened. This could happen in 5 minutes in our life, this whole story, or a lifetime. Psyche comes back. It's still not enough to revenge the good family name of Venus, and wounding her son, her beloved son. So then Venus gives her 4 tasks. Before she gives her the 4 tasks, she says, and by the way, your child's going to be a bastard. Because I'm not letting him marry you. You're not going to become a goblin. That child we're going to toss, and I'm going to replace my son Eros with a new slave, and I'm going to give him the wings that I made, because Vulcan didn't make those wings for him. I did. I gave him all his powers, all his arrows, all his wings, everything, mothers, everything. So there. He's going to be cast out, you're going to be cast out, and forget the concept of the holy child. And I'm thinking to myself, at what point, when is Psyche going to say something like, wow, my child? But she doesn't. She doesn't say anything. Which I think is one of the points. That in our lives, we don't realize there really is a holy child. Sometimes there's more than one inside of us. It constantly wants to give birth, knows the history and the story, both the good and the evil of our lives, and still longs to live in this integration of all this great story. So these 4 tasks are put upon Psyche, which she of herself does not complete the test. Just like us, we don't complete the tests that we're given in life. Our dreams do it. Our enemies do it. An enemy, God bless them, I really don't listen. An enemy, 5 minutes with an enemy is like 5 years in therapy. They will so bring out your shadow faster than anything. You just find an enemy, you say what you got to say, you write it down, and you go into therapy. You'll have it all there. It's the most amazing thing. Okay? And so the first task is she has to mix grains of sands and seeds. Now that's also symbolic of like a Verstink way of thinking. We got everything thrown together. Who cares? Nothing matches. We throw it all together. We're going to live a life. Yeah, you make a loaf of bread out of that. Nothing's good's going to come out of that mess. So, in some interpretations, there is a belief that Venus is torturing Psyche. Yes, but any good mother will torture us to make us strong and give us tasks we didn't know that we could do. Why? Because we have to survive. And something's going to hit you that you're going to have to figure out. So in these tasks, another thing that's fierce, it's not just curious. That's the other thing. Psyche's greatest tragic flaw is sacrilegious curiosity. Curious like a cat, we don't get into so much trouble for. Sacrilegious curiosity, not a good idea. Gee, I wonder what God would do. I wonder what those secrets are. It's like, leave it alone. Leave some just things alone. You're not allowed to look. It's okay. They weren't going to work for you. So Psyche then has these tasks, and she, once again, her solution to every one of these tasks, she's going to kill herself. I'm going to have, and we all do that. I can't do this. I'm going to kill myself. I have to go through this one more time. I'm not going to end it, And it's not so easy to die. We are here to live, and when that moment comes, we're here to live at a different level. And a little ant takes pity on her. One of Earth's little beloved, most industrious workers. Because one of the things that Venus knows, because she is the goddess of love. She's furious now, but she'll come down. She's Venus. Is that she tells Psyche that she wants her. Let's see how industrious you are, because she also knows that's going to be her daughter-in-law. She knows her son. She better be able to handle it. So this little ant comes along and takes pity on her and calls the other ants. And then all the other ants come and they take the grains of sands and they sort everything. And so by sunrise, everything's done. Venus comes in and says, "You're a witch. There's no way you could have done this." She gives her another task. This task, so that particular task is, because what I was just feeling is like, and that holy infant inside is watching its mother mature, take some responsibilities, start sorting things, rather than everything you just can't be a bride forever. Something's got to start coming. Then the second task is Venus wants this water from the river of revenge. I love the names. I mean, it should be lipstick colors. These are like fabulous names. And again, the second one is the rams, the golden rams. Venus says, "I want the wool." Now, these rams are crazy. Psyche wants to kill herself again. But once again, the earth whispers, tells, a little reed says, don't do that, Psyche. Now she's finally starting to catch on. She's starting to listen a little bit, at least to nature. She's starting to listen. And because she has to. And we all have to. We all have to listen to nature a little bit. Or the things, the events that happen around us. That little aside that tells us everything. It's not until 2020 hindsight that we go, oh my God, I was told. Which is a terrible defeat for the ego when we reflect, because we have to give up projections and that's so icky. But we do it. The reed tells her, wait till the rams take a nap, and you'll go in and you'll just take the golden threads from the rams. Okay? That's very important. If you're making something, and you learn, just take the little bit of gold that you need. You don't have to go mug the ram or get the gold. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. Just enough, and to also appease. She gets back to Venus. Venus is even more angry. The third task is she has to get the water from the river Styx and the river of revenge. An eagle. So we've got 2 Earth, okay? And now we've got an eagle. Zeus's eagle, who remembers a kindness that Eros did for him and takes pity on Psyche, and he flies into motion. Now the eagle can be a symbol of the self. The bird is of the spirit. And there are times when we just have to ask spirit to go in there, to go into those dangerous waters, to bring back the cup or the container. We're not allowed to. And that's a big theme, and it's a big, it eventually becomes common sense, but not in the beginning of your journey into consciousness. It's like, you have to take the hints, you have to take the suggestions, not the fearful ones, but just the odd ones. Where you go like, what? I wonder what that means. As soon as you start saying, gee, I wonder what that means, write it down. That means take a left and run, okay? Just be careful, okay? So she does that, then Venus really totally loses her cookie. She cannot believe that these tasks have been fulfilled. And she says, all right, this is going to be the big kahuna. Okay? And she sends Psyche into the underworld to get Persephone's beauty cream. And Psyche knows, oh my God, she really wants me dead. How am I going to do this? Once again, she's going to kill herself. And then the tower says, Psyche, number one, don't throw yourself down from me, because I don't want the karma. So, forget this. Okay? And if you throw, start thinking, Psyche, start using your mind. That's also part of the ego and the spirit and all. Start using. Remember, she needs a little bit of male courage to say, okay, I'll just be Mars and go there and do whatever I got to do. Okay. Now she needs to think a little from a heightened point of view. Think. What are you talking about? Okay. And he says, don't throw yourself from me. Because she's standing on the tower. And he said, and if you throw this is like the last task. You throw yourself, you kill yourself, you're only going to wind up in Hades anyway, but you're going to be dead. Why don't you do it while you're alive, and perhaps you'll fulfill the last task. She takes the hint. Finally, she starts to take the hint. Okay. And he tells her, go to and it's very interesting, because when I was rereading this, and I have some wonderful pictures from that I want everybody to look at. I thought, what a wonderful exercise that would be, to do a map of the trail of Psyche, because it gives you the exact, 3 steps here, make a left, go where the river Styx, do this. I mean, it's a map. It's not like, they're not holding back any secrets. So he tells her how to go in the back and get into the underworld, but there's not a lot of traffic. And he tells her that she has to have water with honey in it, okay, which is an interesting healing compound. She has to have 2 coins that she's to have in her mouth, okay. And he tells her, you're going to get in there, and there's going to be a lame man. Well, there's been a lame man in all of our lives. We all know that. One form or another, or a lame woman or whatever. And the lame man is going to say, please help me. Don't do it. So this is no longer a hint. This is like, here's the deal. Do this. And there are points in one's individuation process, which, by the way, never ends. Anyone who has that fantasy, toss it. It never ends. You can just keep on going through it. But that's the great part of it. You won't be bored. There's a lot of other things you'll be bored. It's not one of them. So she meets the lame man with the donkey, and the lame donkey, and he says, and the tower has told her, do not help that lame man, because it's a trick for Venus to have you let go of kind of the payola, what she needs to give to the 3-headed dog, which is coming up a little later. Buffy the vampire has nothing on Psyche. I'm telling you, this is such high adventure. But also, when you think of it, holding bread, the holiness of sopped bread, with water and honey is such an ancient ritual of Venus. See, there's another subplot, which I haven't worked out, but it's starting to cook right now. It's like, okay, where's the little subplot of Venus's healing ways? It's like what you would do with a child. You scare the death out of them so they'll never go near that river again. And you tell them a horrific story so that they'll be safe. But underneath, you're laughing and you're the loving mother. You just want to put the fear of the goddess in them. So they're 18. And they can go do what they want to do. Psyche listens, and then this tower says, and then you will meet a drowning man. Walk by. And I'm sure all of us at one point should have walked by the drowning man. Oh, but I'd gladly, pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's the drowning man. And the weaving women who are going to wail and scream and ask to be helped. So she finally starts to listen. So it's like, Psyche, you're getting it. You're paying attention. Then she gets into, and she's also told, do not eat anything that Queen Persephone offers you. Sit on the floor, eat a little piece of bread, and be humble. Because one of the laws of the underworld, if you eat from anything from the underworld, you're going to have to return. Okay? Sooner than you thought. Or you may never get out of it at all. I think that's another huge hint at man's tragic flaw. We want to eat, we want to digest, we want to take things in that really are not, I like the word clean, but they can't be digested. Sometimes, and it can be a holy thing, sometimes we can have a holy dream, and it really is. It's a local call from the divine. It's just, that's like, wow, that's really big. Don't interpret it. Don't try to digest it. It could be from the underworld, which is just as holy. Why is heaven better than below? Why is right better than left? I've never quite understood that, since everything is round anyway, and it's always changing. There's really no direction, but that's another story. That's another tale. So she walks by, she succeeds in that, she gets into the underworld, she meets Persephone, she gives her the box of which the beauty cream is supposed, a little bit of Persephone's beauty. Aphrodite needs it because she's going to a party that night and she's simply exhausted from healing her son. Or so the story goes. Persephone whips off, puts a little beauty, and Psyche doesn't eat, she does everything, she repeats the same thing. She gives the I forgot the part about the three-headed dog, which she gives the honey bread to. And she gets, and the tower tells her, and do not stop moving until you see the constellation of the heavens. It's a beautiful image. Until you see the divine, it ain't over. The process isn't over until you get that moment of like, oh, wow, okay. And then you know that you know, but you don't know how you know, but that's okay. Something deep in you knows, okay? Like don't stick your tongue on the fire. You know that. There's other things that happen in our world and in our inner world that we know. But her tragic flaw. Sacrilegious curiosity. She opens the box. Some say because she wanted to be beautiful to meet her beloved. She falls into a deep sleep. She doesn't die. And that can happen very often. We're progressing in our journey, and sacrilegious curiosity, we just won't let it go until the dream tells us you can go. But no, I got a better idea. It's like, one more client gets a better idea. It's like, I really don't think that's such a good idea. And I like good ideas, and I like wild ideas, and I like bizarre solutions. But there are times it's like, I don't think you should be doing it. She falls into a deep sleep. Eros has been healed somewhat of his mother's wound, so we don't hear much about his individuation process. And all the while, she's pregnant. So this child, this potentiality, this union state, has been through every stage. It knows everything that there is to know, at least about those things. Eros picks her up and takes her up to heaven, and she becomes conscious again. And then there's a big row in heaven because he wants to marry her. And finally, he goes to Jupiter rather, and asks, could this be official? Could this marriage become official, this union? And could we calm Venus down? And finally, everybody gets calmed down, and there's a big wedding. I'm sure we were all there. I know what I want. I had a fabulous time. And then, at the end of the tale, this is how it ends. And she gave birth to a child called Pleasure. It was like, that's it? All of this, the 5 mentions and 3 warnings about a child, and that's how it ends? Well, I think we're all here tonight to create an ongoing story. I don't know what it is, but I think it's time to imagine, because this is all, once upon a time, this all came in the 2nd century from someone's imagination, that in the 21st century, in the age of Aquarius, which is a feminine age, meaning we're going to become more receptive, we're going to care more about the earth, that it is time to consider a female holy infant. There are none, except in this story. All the other little goddesses, they're born fully. And they jump out of your head, they're fully born, and then they come out in various places in your body, which we can't even discuss at all. And they're born, and they're maidens. They're maidens in their fullness and everything, but no infant. So I think this is a huge, huge image. And even if it's not true, let's make it true. Because that's the power that we have. And that's the privilege that we have. And if we don't start telling ourselves the story of the holy infant female child, we'll never have contact with it. It will never be honored.